Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Uranium Energy. It is time for another update, and most recently we have broken our area of support. This happened just this week, and we can no longer look for an internal wave 5 of a wave 5 to the upside to form within this area. Well, it's even deeper than that. It's a wave 5 of a wave C or a wave A within this area. Doesn't really matter. The main focus is that we have broken our area of support, and we can still look for continuation to higher prices, but as far as this chart goes, it has a full count at this point. It doesn't need to extend to higher prices to have started the larger correction that would be expected to have a pretty deep retracement. We will be discussing the minimum expectation from a larger time frame perspective in the assumption that a top would be in place already. But before we do that, I wanted to briefly go through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new to provide the full context. So here we have a series of 1-2 setups basically. It could be the case that this is still a working count, then we would need to consider this to be yet another wave 1 to the upside that would have a top in place, or would at least be able to have a top in place, and then we would need to track a wave 2 correction. But we have a couple of other interpretations which both imply very deep retracements. So either this would be a double 1-2-1-2 setup, where instead of having this wave 1 top here, it would have topped here. We would have this as a wave 2 correction, or what would be even more bearish, but we would be looking in either case for a very deep retracement. This could also work out as an A, B, C pattern. Now, once again, in both cases, we are looking for extremely deep retracements. For context, in the case of a larger 1-2 setup, we would expect to reach at least $4.3. That is where our area of support would actually begin, ending at the 84-cent level at the 78.6% retracement. Now, it doesn't need to go that deep. Even a brief touch of the 38.2% retracement within a 3-wave pattern would be sufficient to consider a correction complete, but it would be expected to take a decent amount of time anyway. Now, in the case of a less bearish interpretation, where this would be just another 1-2 setup, well, we would still be looking at a decently sized correction anyway, with the first level of support being here at the $10.8, where again, a 3-wave correction would be all that is necessary before we start a larger wave 3 to the upside. But at the same time, we could go as deep as the $5.5 level and still be within this interpretation. Now, typically, within such a series of 1-2 setups, like this, we wouldn't expect to reach the deepest levels of support. In fact, typically within a wave 3 to the upside, the corrections are quite shallow, but I would expect to at least reach the $10.8 level anyway. That would be the minimum expectation. It would actually be quite rare that we do not reach the first level of support for such a consideration, for such a structure. Now, this can remain on the chart, but only after we go through the rest of the structure. So for context, here we have been tracking this idea of a diagonal structure, whether it is within a wave 1, whether it is within a wave C, doesn't really matter. We have our 5-wave pattern to the upside in place. We have tracked probably over 10 successful trade setups within this wave 3 alone. We had another big one here at the wave 4 correction at the levels between the $13.7 down to the $9. We had a very beautiful 3-wave correction into the 50% retracement. We estimated very accurately when we should be able to have a full count, when we should be able to look for the reversal to the upside, and we have followed through very nicely. We have executed, creating then this as an A, B, C pattern to the upside, completing, or again, possibly completing this as a wave 5, where I do not need any further extensions at this point. And it would have been ideal to follow through within our interpretation, where we would have gotten another high within this area, Because, yeah, we wanted to see here this to be as a 1, 2, to have this as a wave 3, to have here a wave 4, and a wave 5 to complete the structure. We didn't manage to hold the area of support. We didn't manage to hold the area of support for a larger wave A within a leading diagonal. And now we have to consider that this pattern would actually be complete, that we wouldn't see further extensions within this ABC structure itself. But I already provided you in the previous videos this idea of a different type of extensions to higher prices, because at the same time as having a possible wave 5 complete, we could be looking to have instead only completed the wave A of a larger wave 5 to the upside, where now we would be looking for a wave B retracement to be unfolding into an internal area of support at the levels between the $15.5 down to the $11.6 level. And unfortunately, this is an extremely low quality structure for a couple of reasons. So, firstly, it is within a structure that would have a full count possible. Secondly, it is towards the end of a larger trend. Thirdly, we have a diagonal structure and we have a 3-wave pattern in place. None of these strongly suggest that we would see the next extension to the upside, and we will consider such a possibility, but once again, this is not going to be a high probability setup. This is not going to be a high probability structure, and we will need to identify within a smaller time frame a stronger indication that we would get said extension. So for context, we can go even in a smaller time frame here. We would be watching a potential ABC structure to have unfolded in this area, or rather to be still unfolding, and we've already provided this in the previous videos where we had this area of resistance in yellow that needed to be broken for a signal that a breakout would indeed be occurring. We barely got the 38.2% retracement before extending lower, but I believe this seems to be the right pattern to track in this idea of extensions to lower prices. And even in the previous video, I remember providing you specifically this area of support for the idea of a direct extension that had already been broken. Yeah, we had an initial 5-wave move to the upside. We were looking for a 3-wave correction. Well, we got it, but then we extended higher within a wave C. So nothing was really strongly suggesting that we would see the extension. We had the area of support within this structure fail. We didn't manage to hold the 78.6% retracement, and even with the recovery, it was already very, very unlikely that we will see success in following through to even higher prices. And yeah, sure, not long after, we broke it again. We had another recovery, but then ultimately we failed and we broke even the large area of support in green. So right now, I would focus primarily on this idea of a yellow extension to lower prices, where I would be looking for an ideal target for the wave C to be here, the 100% extension of the wave A. And I say that is the ideal target, but keep in mind we do not need to get there. It could end short of that, and based on the internal structure within this movement to the downside, I am looking at an ending diagonal to be the most likely pattern, where I would consider that a wave 1 would be in place, a wave 2 would be in place, a wave 3 likely to have bottomed as well, and we would really only need a wave 4 and a wave 5 to have a complete count in this area. And with such expectations, we would really only be looking to something like the 78.6% extension to be reached, because it's just a wave 5 that we are tracking within an ending diagonal, nothing too substantial that we would typically look to obtain within this area. And I don't want to rule out the possibility of an extension within this wave 3, be aware of that, as we could be looking at this to have been a larger wave A instead of the full wave 3 to have a larger wave B correction and a wave C to take us even lower prior to creating the wave 4 correction. And not only that, but if we are to look for the ideal target for the wave 3 to the downside within this area, well, it would have been the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, the $13 level. We didn't achieve that, and we weren't far off but it's just a hint. We might still see further continuation to lower prices within this structure. And I do have to say, if I would zoom in and I would focus on the internal structure, yes, we do have room even internally for this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Yeah, we could be looking for even an internal area of resistance, but this is not necessarily my primary focus, because even with a break here above the 50% retracement, I would still be able to look for continuation to lower prices. So here in this structure, we'll be looking for an internal extension in a wave 5, and we will in fact even do this within the orange interpretation instead, and within the yellow structure we will focus on what is really important, and that is the larger time frame and the level that we need to break for a signal of an early bottom, where this would be instead the 61.8% retracement for this as a larger entire wave 3 to the downside at the $14.7. Now, what else could we be watching within this area, within this structure? So I am noticing here structural support within this area. Yeah, we are talking about the levels around the $13 down to the $12.6 that can create more of a recovery. Well, if we are to place once again the extension, we would be looking for a wave C. That would be very much in line with the 78.6% retracement, very much in the region we would expect to bottom if we are already within the wave 4 and we would create a wave 5 to complete this structure. Ultimately, I wouldn't look with high probabilities for a position within this area. Once again, remember the larger time frame context, but if we are able to identify within a smaller time frame structure an initial 5-wave move to the upside, this could turn interesting yet again, and with a break below the larger area of support here in green at the $11.6, well, we would start to look for a very likely top to already be in place within this larger pattern in white, and to look for the larger area of support that we have highlighted here before getting into the smaller time frame details, where once again the first level of support of interest would sit at the $10.8 before looking for this as a larger 1-2 setup to have a potential bottom. And for now, to sum up, yes, we are still looking for a possible extension to higher prices, but the likely portion, even to the point of a full count within the larger pattern, within the overall structure, is in place. We do not need any such extensions, and without a strong indication from a smaller time frame perspective, this is not going to be a high probability structure. It is not going to be a high probability setup. And even though, sure, ideally we do start to see a stronger relief rally once this yellow structure is full, we do not require such a thing. Don't assume this to happen, because we are definitely within a high risk area, especially since we broke our relevant levels of support that would have allowed an easier extension to occur. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoy our content and you want to support us directly, don't forget to check out our channel membership, where you even get access to a couple of cool perks. And other than that, let me know what else you would like me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.